Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Nonprofit Learning Lab for today's workshop. If you have any questions along the way for our presenter, you can type them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel, likely on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're interested in using live captions for today's workshop, you can use the link that we'll send in the chat. If you are interested in receiving the recordings and materials from today's free webinar, you can visit our free webinars page on the Nonprofit Learning Lab website, or you can shoot us an email at program@nonprofitlearninglab.org. And without further ado, I will now hand it over to you, Mina.
Thank you, Monica. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Well, is it good afternoon? Yeah, it is good afternoon in some places. So I am Meena Das. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm going to talk to you about centering humans in artificial intelligence, or AI. And I am joining you from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. I will introduce myself and about this beautiful land I'm on, and the topic in a second. But I want to start with this context. And before I jump into the context and my piece here, I want to send thanks to Monica, who's helping us here from Nonprofit Learning Lab. I have one single screen on my end, so she's going to be helping me with monitoring the chat, any of your questions. Also, if live captioning distorts with any of what I'm saying, because I do have an accent, I'm a first-generation immigrant, please feel free to send message to Monica or me, and then I'm going to make sure that I repeat what I just said. Okay, so some context. Why am I here? So I have been working in this space of AI for almost 16 years now. I grew up in India, had a lot of experience writing my algorithms 16 years ago for FinServ and banks and other industries and sectors. I moved to States about 7 years ago, got more deeply involved into machine learning and analytics, and started to work slowly for tech and nonprofit industry out of States and Canada. Now, 7 years ago, I met an accident when I was in one of the biggest tech companies in Seattle, and I met an accident just going into, taking my lunch. And I usually include this story because this is my why I am here. So I go for my lunch and I fell in the cafeteria. So there was this water, there was this hard floor, and there was no wet floor sign, and I fell. Somebody brushed past me, I rolled over the stairs, and when people were picking me up, my teeth were on the floor. So this is easier for me to talk now, but it was not, as you can understand, back then. And it took me about 3 months to be able to even start talking again. Anyway, what happened after that accident was I became part of 2 very important databases in the state of Washington. One was the Labor Department. The other was my, alien foreign resident visa. And I started to coordinate with these 2 very important big groups that are supposed to support workers in the state to figure out who can pay for many, many of my surgeries that I need to do. And none of them did. One group said, you are only going to be in this country because of your visa for maybe another year or so. We can't really do much here because of your visa status. The other group said, well, you know what, you fell in the cafeteria, but it's actually the responsibility of your employer. So go talk to them. Employer said, well, it's cafeteria's land or floor where you fell, so you have to talk to them. And there was no consensus amongst these very important, very strong groups as to who's supposed to pay for this one individual who has gone through this traumatizing experience. Anyway, long story short, at some point I get a phone call saying, well, you know what, you are now eligible for some dollars, but we are not sure how much because your past medical records show that you have had access to some anxiety medications in the past. And that tells us, based on all your activities of 2 years of living, because I was a new immigrant, 2 years of living in this country, that you are you are possible for, a case of depression, a type of depression. And so we can't really allocate a lot of money here. This is the point, the pivotal point for me when all of this became personal to me, because we all use AI in some shape or form. But unless we really start centering the humanity, the pain, the people in it, we are never going to be able to look at AI in a way which it holds us accountable for the kind of impacts we want. So everybody uses AI. Few of us care to talk about it, and fewer fully understand how dangerous it can be to be living in algorithms. And so this work is not just work for me, it's not just passion for me, it is personal for me, because I want to talk to you about how it is to live in algorithms when we all are already residents of it. That's why I picked the topic centering humans and AI every single time. So I usually start with land acknowledgement before we get into the actual conversation. I respectfully acknowledge that I am fortunate to live, learn, and provide my services on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I am a first-generation immigrant here in North America, and I am very grateful for the land that I'm on. So where am I coming into this conversation? Obviously, you heard a part of my story, so as a storyteller, I'm coming as a facilitator in this conversation where I'm going to be giving you prompts and questions for you to dig deeper, to self-reflect, to share it back with your team. I'm coming to you as an explorer, as a learner, and something that I like to call as experiential learning, which basically means that, like I said, you and I have already been using AI in some shape or form. 50 people who are in this virtual room right now, I can guarantee a lot of us might be either already exploring those tools or might be thinking about those tools, or if nothing else, we are actually part of some of the day-to-day Gmail, Prime, and other kinds of personal tools that we use, which makes us residents of AI already. So experiential learning to me means that if you have something from your experience, please share that in the chat window. My goal in every conversation when I get to have these with awesome people like you is to build collective wisdom. What we are doing here is not one-way conversation, but a two-way conversation. So please jump in with your thoughts, with your questions, with your experiences, and anything that really resonates with you. So I'll quickly talk about my work. 2 years ago, after working for almost 16 years for tech and other nonprofit consulting companies, I came to my final and full-time job. This is my, hopefully, the final full-time job. I started my own thing because I started to question, how can I align who I am with what I do? Basically, I started to question, what does it mean when you start aligning your lived experiences and your learned experiences in the data? So that blue bubble in the middle, that became my why. That data plus social equity, that became my question that I chase every single day for the last 2 years and going into my third year. How can we do good with data? And by that extension, with AI. The pink spaces are all the translation and manifestations of that why. So on the very left-hand side, and I'm going to pull up some pictures to make this accessible for you, is my consulting practice called Namaste Data, where what I do is work with nonprofits and social impact agencies to determine, what does it mean to center your community in your data, in your AI? What does it mean to be inclusive, to be equitable with your data? On the right-hand side is my school called Data is for Everyone, something that I believe in. It is for everyone. And to be counted, to be reflected in data is not a matter of privilege. It should not be, it cannot be a matter of privilege. So what I offer under Data is for Everyone are workshops like advancing equity in data collection, advancing equity in visualization, or for that matter, I have a workshop called Moving Towards Human-Centric AI and AI Advancement Lab. And when I'm not consulting, not workshopping, I love to write. I have 2 newsletters. You can find me on LinkedIn, Data Uncollected and Dear Human. And I love, love, love to speak in spaces where I can find curious people, again, such as yourself, with whom I can talk about what does it mean to be centering you, me, people like us, our communities when we are talking about data and artificial intelligence. So this is my universe. But now I want to hear from you. So I'm going to ask you a question. How ready are we to have this conversation? I know you are here, which is awesome, and I am so grateful that you are here. But let's figure out as a group, right now we have 54 people in this room. As a group, where are we? How ready are we to have this conversation? So I'm going to ask you 6 statements. I'm going to give you 6 statements, and I want you to give yourself 1 point if it's a yes, or 0 points if it's a no. I'm going to trust that you're going to stay honest with the responses, and you can take a minute to form your thoughts. You never have to jump in with your responses or how you choose to proceed. So you have a minute after every statement that I share. And then we would do a poll because you're going to sum all your points and we'll see what comes up. Yeah? Okay. Remember, 1 point for each yes. Okay? All right, so statement 1. I understand the data that we collect at my work, or at least my team. I'm going to keep reading the statements. You give yourself a point each for a yes. Statement number 2. I'm confident in me and my team's ability to manage and protect sensitive data. Statement number 3. We at our work review data policies and procedures to ensure compliance with regulations. Statement 4. We employ strategies to ensure that the data we collect and analyze is representative of and inclusive of the communities we serve. They might feel like some of the statements they are unpacking 2 or 3 different things. Make your best guess. This is definitely not like a GMAT exam, so make your best guess, and we are going to sum up the points soon. I'm confident, now statement 5, I'm confident of how we collect data and then use to measure impact. It talks about your confidence. And I'm confident of how we share back the results of all data collection with our community. So I'm going to give you a few seconds here to give yourself points. And then Monica, I'm going to look at you to open up the poll. So give yourself a point and then sum all of it, and then I'm going to open up the poll here. Just in case if anyone needs me to go back to the statements, let me know and I would. But I'm going to look at Monica to share the poll in a second.
Hi, Mina. It looks like 4% answered A, got all 6, 50% answered B, 4 to 5, 46% answered C, 1 to 3, and no one said 0.
Okay, thanks, Monica. Love the group here. Okay, A, the people who selected A, awesome for you. Great, terrific. B and C, love your honesty. Great. What I'm asking here, my intention in asking this question to you is this. Now we have 45 minutes. So by the end of the 45 minutes, I have one goal with you to make you realize that you as an individual, you do have the power to move up on those scores. You can move towards human-centric AI in this work. When we feel about AI, you know, and I do these conversations a lot in my work, and there is this one common theme across the board, whether I'm talking to, you know, regardless of the size of the nonprofit, the role of the individual I'm talking, the interest, expert choice, anything of the person I'm talking to, there's this one common theme. People feel that they do not have an influence when it comes to AI, because maybe they are not the developer, maybe because they are not a big company, maybe because it requires money and power. But here's the thing. Each of us do have an influence when it comes to artificial intelligence, because we are the data that is going to be fed into those AI systems. So of course you have an influence in there, and you can make sure that you are always centering humans in the ways you are using AI or talking about AI or bringing AI in your work. And that is my only goal today in the next 45 minutes. So our plan today is this. It's a simple one. We are going to talk about AI as it exists today. What does it mean? What does it look like? What is it? We are going to talk about why are we centering community and humans in algorithms. And I am going to interchangeably use a little bit AI and algorithms, but I mean the same thing is why are we centering community in algorithms? Algorithms are what are kind of the steps in the AI system that is creating some sort of an output for us, right? Then we are going to talk about the three biggest problems with AI that is. See, I'm very passionate and I understand the magic AI can create. But if we are not careful, we are going to decenter humans and humanity from algorithms. And that is unacceptable to me. And that is why we are going to talk about the problem as well. So what are the three biggest challenges, right, if we want to do this? And then what can we do as an individual? Because I said we do have power here, right? And just to remind, I'm entering this conversation with you as your facilitator, as your explorer, learner, and I'm kind of consciously optimistic. And I'm, like I said, I believe in experiential learning. So please jump in with your thoughts. I really can't track the chat, but I know my friend Monica here is going to help me to track that. Okay, so let's start with our daily life before we jump to nonprofit specific focus. AI is already used in daily life. Believe me, we are part of AI for, I don't know, maybe already 6-7 years. Like Gmail started using some really pretty cool features for a couple of years now, right? And then there is this little company called Amazon, if you know about them, where if you buy something, you would instantly get recommendations of other kind of products. Or there is this another company called Netflix that allows you to finish your food by binge watching stuff after stuff because it's going to give you recommendations. All of those things are basically learning from your engagement, learning from your data to showcase for you how to create hyper-focused, personalized experiences for you. That's an example of AI right here for us. And then, of course, ChatGPT. A lot of us must have used ChatGPT by now, right? Experimented with it or trying to use it every day or figuring out if we can use it, why we can't use it, things like those, right? So AI is already there in our daily life. Now, what does it look like in the nonprofit industry? There are 5 typical use cases I have seen personally. Now, if you have seen other use cases, this is where the experiential learning comes in. Please jump in with another use case that you're not seeing here. But the first one is segmentations, really using AI systems to find out who is your priority. So an example here is increasing major gift prospects using segmentation. So example is who will be the next likely high net worth donor. AI is also used as of today. There are products which helps you around donor engagement. So which donors are positively engaged for the next gala night invitations. That's one example of a question you might have under donor engagement. Task automation, very commonly seen example. ChatGPT is picking up on that. Task automation, right? You want to send out automated letters, you want to send out automated thank you notes, right there is your AI. Volunteer engagement, right? And program delivery. Now, the program delivery part is one where I am personally most passionate about, to figure out how AI is directly connecting with supporting a homeless individual on our streets to have a safe space in the city. But for all of those use cases, there are AI tools that exist as of today. They use your data that you have in your system. These AI systems bring their algorithms, pick on your data, create some output, and offer you some pretty nice, neat results. It could be a report, it could be a dashboard, it could be a chart, but they create something for you right there. And this is where I feel to always interject and say, hey, are you centering your community in the way your algorithm is dealing with data or not? So this is the slide that I want to talk to you. Let's talk about data for a minute, right? I just said the AI systems take a lot of your data, right? They are running on those data points and they're creating this output, this outcome for you. Why are we so interested in centering humans in AI? That is because, and trust me, this is coming from my own experience of talking, and I'm going to use the word talking, to tons and tons of Excel spreadsheets of different sizes of data. I've read Excel spreadsheets, I've turned them into charts, I've turned them into reports, and this has what happened every single time. Our eyes, interest, strategies, next steps, action items, whatever you want to call, it always focuses on this majority group. If we are not careful in centering humans, everything falls around the majority group. In this part of the world, in North America, that majority looks like white, cisgendered, able-bodied, native English speaker, sort of the majority population right here. But if we really want to be mindful, respectful of, centering humans here, the same data, the same Excel spreadsheet can have a first-generation Asian immigrant, right? I'm going to move this pop-up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the same data can have first-generation Asian immigrant, cis woman, Indian descendant with visual disability who, let's say, immigrated in 2015, right? The same data can also have first-generation Asian immigrant, cis woman, Indian descendant with language barrier, right? And this person immigrated in 1978. So intergenerational immigrants, barriers for intergenerational immigrants here. Or the same data set can have second-generation Asian immigrants, trans women with no disabilities. What I'm really getting at here is that our identities are complex. They are made of a lot of small little nuances, which involves who we are in terms of our immigration status, our disabilities, our abilities, our who we are in terms of our racial and ethnic identities. There are a lot of components, and I'll pull up a slide in a second. But what I'm picking here are just 3 or 4 of those angles here in this slide. And already you can see that we have a pretty robust data set, but if you're not careful, the strategies are going to look something like this. So we have to learn, and this is not easy because we have never learned this. This was, had I not left my job 2 years ago and made this my full-time job, I don't think I would have ever questioned to take the data, turn it into a chart, feed it into a system, create an algorithm, and that's that. Turn it into a pretty strategy report. But we cannot be complacent in the way we are doing this. We have to unlearn and learn to look at the full picture. And this is the slide where you can see there are a lot of nuances when we talk about intersectionality. Intersectionality basically means all the different components of who we are. So it can be about your language, income, culture, education, nationality, all those things right there, right? Just imagine if we are not careful, how quickly we might lose our community and people, because there can be so many different combinations of who a person can be, right? Now I'll flip that same example of why are we centering community with this example. And Monica, I'm going to look at you here because I have a question. This is not a poll, this is, you can use the chat window to share your responses, okay? So now let's talk, we talked about data, right? We just talked about why is it important to talk about data and centering humans in our data sets. Let's talk about whose voice are we centering when it comes to AI. Let's say, for example, you are creating an algorithm, let's say, which is going to be fed into an AI system, okay? The job of the algorithm is to predict the shape that is here, right? The box, this little kind of a weird shape right here. Now, typically what happens in our companies and our nonprofits and our places is that, you know, you are not going to be the only one who just goes and does things by yourself. Like you would have probably a person or two, depending on the size of your organization. So let's do this, play this a little bit. Let's say you are working with two other people. So one is your team member and one is your manager, and you are the one who are actually coding and designing this algorithm, okay? So what I want you to do is type in the chat window, how would you predict this shape? Give me some option. Like if you were to look at this shape, give me a few options. What does this, the box on the left-hand side, what does this look like to you? And Monica, if you could please read me some of the responses, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yep, Mina, it looks like responses are coming in.
Okay.
People are saying a bean, we have an island, a beanbag chair.
Okay.
You just want to remind all attendees, if you would like to submit a response, you can do so using the control panel, likely on the right-hand side of your screen. It looks like those are the only responses that have come in so far. Oh, we have a chair.
Okay.
Handheld palette for an artist.
Okay, I like that.
A golf course.
Okay.
And a bubble.
Okay.
Pac-Man off his diet. And a cookie. I think those are some of the best responses that have come in so far.
Fantastic. Thank you, Monica. And thank you, everybody who chimed in here, because it clearly looks like we are getting into our comfortable rabbit holes of creativity. But okay, let's continue. So you said beanbag, I heard cookie, palette for artists, all different options, right? Let me show what I hear. And when I responded myself to this question the first time I encountered it, what did it look like? Oops, yeah. Okay, so three ways this shape could look like. Could be circle, triangle, rectangle, very basic, right? Or it could be something like round or pointy. It could also be something like small or big. And you all gave some amazing, pretty amazing responses of beanbag chair and palette and cookie and all other things, right? Just imagine you came up with this, you were coding the algorithm, you decided that these things should be the name of this shape. So should a new shape come up, if it looks close enough to this, you are going to say it's a beanbag. And then in the real world, you are also going to have a manager or another, you know, your team member or and then a leadership. So just everybody would have an opinion around this. So you coded it, there would be people around it. And the question at the end of the day would become is whose voice is centered in those segmentation categories. So if you are using any AI tool in your nonprofit right now, whether it is for segmentation or donor prospecting or program delivery, go back to your vendors and ask, how did you come up with these names? How did you come up with these segmentations? Maybe because they existed in the industry and they picked up and they learned, sure. But we need to focus. We need to figure out whose voice is there. Because trust me, this is the wheel of power and privilege. And this is not a beautiful diagram from me. There are credits here. But clearly that you can see when we are working in organizations, there is this power dynamics. So in a room full of people, right, when you are trying to figure out the final decisions around your algorithms before you ship it and send it out into the community, or before you start using it in your nonprofit more and more, because frankly, AI is not something that you just have to look at an external party. You can also create your own within your organization. The question really becomes, from this wheel of power privilege, can you start figuring out whose voice is then centered in those algorithms? Because it is critical, because there would be strategies, there would be decisions that would happen after you would start using, or after your users would start using those AI systems. So this is another reason why we need to center humans and algorithms. So if we know that there is something to do with the data, we know that whose voice is centered in algorithms. We don't know that. Usually, most AI systems, they don't come up with these very nuanced, specific things saying, okay, very nuanced things that whose voice is there. So now the question becomes, what is the problem with artificial intelligence? What is the problem, let's say, with any AI system for that matter? There are three problems. There are more, but I'm trying to pull the top three kind of in a, which can give you the best lay of the land. So problem one is a lot of AI systems, they are sort of designed in a way that they constantly look for new ways to sort, to profile biased data, right? And they don't really clarify for you how that using those systems without care, without mindfulness, without respect, can lead to exclusion, tokenism, discrimination. That's some sort of unintentional segmentation almost that is harming our communities. Problem number two is the AI systems around us, they are complex, they are opaque, and their proprietary nature of the AI systems mean that we don't know what can go wrong until, you know, a group of people are affected. Take ChatGPT, for example. I don't know how many of you have used ChatGPT or how familiar you are with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT has this new feature called ChatGPT Store or GPT Store. What basically means is that you can create your custom bots in the ChatGPT environment. You can train on it, and you can launch those GPTs and in exchange for money. So you're basically, you know, kind of app system in Androids. Now, the problem is because they don't offer, first of all, ChatGPT environment itself is not, you know, safe for some of the very, I would say, for some of the secure data that we want. But in GPT Store, we don't even have any guardrails around what you can or cannot give instructions. For example, let me give an example. So 2 weeks ago, there was this very, very viral post going on in LinkedIn where somebody posted, oh, I have created a custom GPT that anybody can use now, which is learning from all the non-white, the books written by non-white authors. So now you can go and talk to, now you can go and learn about the perspectives of the Black community just using this GPT. Somebody posted about this and said how equitable that is. And people were cheering for that, oh, that's great. Now we have an easy system to go learn about the perspectives of the Black community. Here is my problem with that. I don't think it's great to completely replace active conversation and active listening directly from the community. We cannot replace the community with the systems. The systems can guide you, can support you, can advise, I wouldn't say advise, but really can be your friend in terms of the tasks that you are trying to do, but it cannot replace the actual perspectives of, for example, me as a non-white person can offer, or you as a non-white author can offer, when you are trying to share your perspectives, your lived experiences, your learned experiences, right? So AI systems are complex, they are opaque, and they have this kind of proprietary nature. That's the second issue that we have with our systems. The third issue, oh, my computer paused for a second. The third issue is that few people have the skills to interrogate and challenge these automated and predictive systems. Just imagine tomorrow, let's say a big company, and whoever in your world feels to be a big company, say that big company launched a new kind of app and said, here, upload these ten very personal data points about yourself in this system, and you are going to get some sort of a score. How smart are you? How intelligent are you? Or how capable are you for earning so and so? We won't ask questions. How are you going to store my personal information? How are you going to ensure that the personal information you collected is not sold to other parties? Or, for that matter, how is this information going to support, at the end of the day, some sort of segmentation set you are going to create, right? So we need that skill to challenge. We don't have, I'm not saying, and this is coming from someone who has very extensive education and work experience, and I'm privileged that I could get that kind of education and experience around AI systems. But I understand the power of AI, but I want us to feel comfortable in challenging these systems, saying, I do not understand what you are talking about. Please explain me what you are going to do with each piece. How is it helping me in my work of building communities around me, of building human relationships around me, of centering trust in those relationships? Don't take AI as this band-aid solution. Look for AI for something sustainable, long-term solution. And for that to happen, we need to get comfortable in challenging and asking questions. So, and we need the knowledge and comfort around that. Building this space of conversation that you and I have been doing for the last 40 minutes, that's one of the ways that we are learning the skill to interrogate, but we need to be doing it again and again. So these are the three problems that we have with the AI systems as of now. The question is then, what can you do? Because I promised you at the beginning of this session that you do have power and influence when it comes to AI, because we are the data that is going to be fed into those systems. So the question is, what can you do? Now, trust me, most of the solutions that, let's talk about the AI solutions that we can likely bring, right? Let's say there are products outside in the industry, and you go after the session, or maybe you're already in talks of bringing some AI solutions in your organization. Now, your AI solution is likely going to fall in probably three categories. It could either be to support your internal staff in doing something for your staff, right? It could be something directly about your mission, about your work directly, or it could be something like for your donors or subscribers, automating some thank you notes. That's for your external allies. So your solution can fall somewhere in these three boxes. And likely the scenario is that they are going to claim that you are going to scale your impact, or you're going to save time or improve the dollar value, some of those things. Now the question is, if you know where your AI solution is, how do you center humans? We are still figuring that out. Here's something. Let me move this box. I keep getting a pop-up on my screen. Okay. So how can we do this and what can we do? The first thing that I want you to start with is start listening to your community needs. We are not bringing AI into our nonprofits, into our mission, because AI has some magic capability. We are bringing because our why, our mission, our work still stays the same to show up for our communities who are out in the world to be making a shift in the world. And so instead of starting with AI systems, start with your community needs. Start listening what your community needs are, and then start mapping them with AI. Now, once you start thinking about AI and bringing it, for sure, you're going to have those claims. You're going to scale something, you're going to improve something, you're going to save time. It's going to create some sort of a transformation. Let's say you bring ChatGPT, and this actually happened in one of my consulting projects. My job was to support I would say small size nonprofit out of Toronto here in Canada, whose job was augmenting mental health support in the BIPOC community. And they wanted to use ChatGPT. And here's actually this one is a good example, because what we did was they had two social media, this was early days of ChatGPT last year, and they had two social media coordinators who were part-time students. They were international students. They really wanted to augment their work, build awareness about their work with the Toronto community and probably external community in Canada. So what we did was we set up a very specific training with those two social media coordinators around ChatGPT, especially how can you use it ethically and responsibly, not just injecting prompts, but really where are the possible places where transformations can happen. But here's the thing, we also started to reallocate the time that would be saved. It's not just bringing the AI solution. Those social media coordinators, they were going to save time, and they did. But now what? What would happen? We don't want them to lose their jobs either. So what instead we did was we paired them up with the second part of the training was pairing them up with the fundraisers of the organization to give them training around how can you talk to new people, how can you bring prospective people into the organization. And so what they started doing was they used ChatGPT to create some stuff that they could post, yes, but the time that they saved, instead of them losing their job that, oh, bye, you don't have to be here anymore, what the organization ED did was they allowed these two coordinators to go out and talk to the people who were engaging with the posts, who were commenting, who were posting, to say, hey, would you be interested to learn more? We have some amazing volunteering opportunities, or we have some amazing events coming up, things like that. And trust me, it wasn't easy for those two people because they weren't really necessarily the people who went out in front of the community, but eventually they did bring, one of them did bring some dollars into the organization. Now that wasn't the goal, but that was something that happened. So think about, what are you going to do when the AI does its transformation? What are you going to do with that? Create inclusive spaces. If we want to center humans in AI, we have to create inclusive spaces where diverse perspectives, and I don't mean just the racial or ethnic diversity, all forms of diverse perspectives are included. You're creating a space for people to share their opinions and share their experiences in their own language. And an example of this would be, so I have created algorithms in the past, right? I am a BIPOC woman, and I have seen organizations feeling like they have done their part in creating that inclusive space by just hiring me. Okay, so we have this one person from India, and this is covered. We have the racial diversity included. That is not enough. We are not talking about just diversity. We are talking about inclusion. We are talking about belonging. We are talking about people who can share their perspectives, and not just the developers, again, not just the developers, but the outside community or the internal allies who are involved in the project to share their perspective. That's another way we are going to ensure that we are centering humans in the algorithms. Creating AI or evaluation framework, right? That's important. Just bringing AI into the organization is not helpful. We have to evaluate what did it transform, why did it transform, how is it helping us really? It needs to have a purpose, right? So that we can, again, connect it with, is it mapping and is it successfully supporting us in listening to our community needs, the first one that we talked about. And this is probably my favorite one, is understanding data individually and as a group. It is non-negotiable for us to be part of the AI systems and not spend our energies, our time to understand what data it is. Because trust me, you and I are the data. We are the data right there. And so we have to understand that data that's into our systems, that we are feeding into the AI systems, that we are going to give to the vendors who would bring the AI solutions. We have to understand the data. And I don't mean just your research teams or the people who have some relationship with data by the nature of their role. I mean all of us, because all of us do have a relationship with the word data, right? These are just some ways where we can be centering humans into our algorithms. Okay, so we are coming close to our last 10 minutes. So I want to leave you with 4 action items here. One is unpacking this. Like I said, this cannot be a one-time session, right? You have to talk about this with your team and for yourself. Unpack this, pick themes from this, pick ideas from this. Try, the second point is trying something. So I have a link here, and I know Monica is going to offer you this deck at some point. There is a link on my website where I have drafted some principles around community centricity and AI. I come from this movement of community-centric fundraising. And what you can do is go to that page and figure out what resonates most with you, right? The third one is joining AI Advancement Lab. That's a cohort-based group coaching on AI. It starts next week on 30th, a week from now. If you're interested, thank you so much, Monica, for sharing the link. There is a link in the chat window. You can click on it. There is a $40 coupon code as a gratitude note for Nonprofit Learning Lab for offering you and me the space to be here together. So the code is THANKSNLL. You can copy paste that for $40 coupon for off. And reach out with questions, thoughts, and ideas. This really can be a one-time conversation. And if you have to pick one question out of this entire 1 hour, this is what I'm going to give you. Ask yourself, what kind of future do you want to live in? Ask yourself again and again, what kind of future do you want to live in? Because trust me, the answers you come up with is going to impact your actions, and that is going to impact the way we show up in the data and the systems around us. So, what kind of future do you want to live in? And I think we can wrap up. We promised why we wanted to talk about AI as it exists today, the problems, what can we do? I already gave you some action items, and there will be some links that Monica can share with you. And I'll leave in the action item part, but thank you so much for listening to me. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions if there are, or any thoughts that you have.
Hi, Mina. Thank you so much. It looks like we have one question that just came through.
Okay.
Someone was asking about who owns the AI output. For example, I'm using Wix AI to set up my website. Who owns the content I input through their system?
That is a beautiful question. Whoever asked it, thank you so much. Okay, so when you're using external platforms and with AI systems, most have their guidelines that you are the owner, you are the owner of the content, but they are the owner of the output of some of those pieces. So for example, I know I haven't used the Wix as much. I had my website on it, but there are some pieces where you can plug in some data, and then they have a option called Magic AI, which can create some stuff for you. So the parts that are created by them, they own it, and the parts that you have, which are yours, you own it. So ownership should be with you. That being said, it also differs platform to platform. So you might get more benefit by checking in with their privacy policies, which I think most companies should be updating right now.
Great, thank you so much, Mina. Looks like that was the only question that we have at this point. If you do have any additional questions, you can reach out to Mina. Thank you, Mina. This workshop has officially come to a close. If you are interested in receiving the recordings and materials from today's free webinar, you can visit our free webinars page on the Nonprofit Learning Lab website, or you can send us an email at program@nonprofitlearninglab.org. Thank you all so much for participating. And again, thank you so much, Mina, for educating our community.
Thank you so much, Kat, for being here. Thanks, Monica.